Christopher Priest works some of his interstellar magic with Superman this issue as he ventures into Grant Morrison territory with space dolphins and living dust aliens. I thoroughly enjoyed Priest solidly establishing Superman can't just zip home, he's properly trapped in the middle of the solar system, and expands that just by going by the numbers Priest uses here, which are all accurate, is just mind-bogglingly big. The space dolphins, which have been seen countless times through DC's cosmic side of things over the years, were a welcome inclusion, and in classic Priest fashion, he kind of turns everything on its head and switches things up and makes them the antagonists for a change, and feeding their story into Superman's own plight of learning firsthand that the universe is a lot more complex and bigger than he had given it credit for before. It's fun seeing Clark having to deal with problems he really cannot fix, both because it's not really his place in the universe to fix, but also because he physically cannot. And just seeing how much that weighs on his mind, especially him leaving the planet Kansas so quickly after getting his survival kit, is causing him to second guess his choices a lot. It's a thoroughly interesting direction for the character, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Priest does with him in the remaining 7 issues. Carlos Pagulayan continues Superman's crazy space adventure with more great cosmic artwork, taking full advantage of Priest's setting with the space dolphins and strange sand beings, bathing the book in great reds and deep blues, Superman's core colours, while the hero himself is contrasted against all of these backgrounds in a stark white suit, acting as sort of a visual signpost to Superman's alienation from everything else in the universe since he's in an unknown part of the universe, and I quite like that visual representation. Superman Lost issue 3 was another fantastic adventure from Priest and Pagulayan, exploring the immense journey Clark has ahead of him while dropping him into unique and interesting problems he cannot instantly Superman his way out of. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10. Superman issue 3 finds Lois angrily throw her work off the kitchen table as she hears a ping sound. She decides to look for the source of the noise, rummaging through Clark's clothes, lamenting how she isn't his maid as she finds a broken, highly advanced device along with his white Superman suit. Long before in space, Superman is woken up by the device, which reminds him that if he damages it, his personal survival kit, or PSK, will fail. Clark tells the device, whose name is Marquis, that it doesn't need to remind him of that, and it and his solar suit are Victor's generous gifts to him. Clark does some math, finding that it's been 213 days since he departed from the planet he has dubbed Kansas, and he's travelled over 22 billion kilometers. Clark learns the solar system is 197 billion kilometers in diameter, and in the 7-month travel he has had so far, he's barely left the neighborhood he's in, but at least the solar suit's rechargeable solar array amplifies his cells, but only marginally, comparing it to using some batteries to power a Tesla. He asks the PSK his distance to Earth, but it's not a navigational unit, so he cannot tell him. The device is able to theoretically tell him that he's about 14,000 light years away, and there are 9.5 trillion kilometers in 1 light year. Superman thinks that Victor was trying to get rid of him by giving him the solar suit and the PSK, and he was so anxious to get home that he never even wondered why, wondering if he actually abandoned all of those people back on Kansas. PSK asks if he wants to return to the planet as he floats aimlessly through space. Soon he is buzzed by a pod of space dolphins, and Superman tries to follow them, remembering how Lobo mentioned them when he joined the Justice League. The PSK doesn't know what species they are, as Superman asks if he can tag along with them since they travel at post-light speeds, but the PSK reminds him that sound doesn't travel in space. Clark is well aware, and they don't need to hear him, since the creatures are empathic and can sense his intention. The dolphins agree to help, pulling Superman along with them at post-light speed. PSK asks what the dolphins' destination is, but Clark knows anywhere is better than where they were. He asks the device at his current speed how long will it take for him to get to the nearest yellow star to fully restore his powers, and the PSK tells him it will be 6 months. So Superman takes his chances, since travelling at these speeds towards a number of stars will slowly recharge his suit over time, and the dolphins have visited Earth, so they know the way there. He gets the device device to crunch more numbers, getting the device to reveal that it would actually take the dolphins 1.3 million years to get to Earth at their present speed. But that proves Clark's hunch right, since it's obvious that they had help to get to Earth, like traversing a network of black holes or trans-warp corridors. He thinks about Green Lantern and how he made it all sound so simple. They would just call up and zip across the galaxy in minutes, but the slightest error or miscalculation and it's all gone. Superman takes his chance though, telling Marcus that he is going home, and that's the end of their discussion on it. Superman traverses one of the black holes with the dolphins and it spits him out elsewhere in the galaxy, repowering him thanks to taking him in close by various yellow suns. Suddenly a whirring sound is heard in Superman's head and he recognizes a psychic attack when he hears one as the dolphins drop out of hyperspace with him. The PSK tells him that he has reached their destination, where Superman sees other dolphins caught in a strange red storm around a planet. Clark deduces that the dolphins didn't just happen upon him, they found him and want his help to free their calves. Superman moves towards one of the energy bands, but one of the dolphins pushes him out of the way, and Clark figures that they are trying to protect him, and the energy is like a Venus flytrap, luring in things like these dolphin calves and causing their parents to come to find him for help. Clark tells the dolphins that he knows that he can't just pull them out, and he must find the source of the energy. He heads towards the planet's surface, getting the PSK to translate a call to their leader. No one responds, and Clark thinks the energy is some sort of planetary defense system. Clark notices that the planet is a gas dwarf, meaning that it's basically just a rock surrounded by an envelope of noble gases, so there's probably not actually much life there, at least not in the arrogant way that he defines life. Superman heads to the planet's surface, finding the gravity is much higher than on Earth, as he discovers a giant statue of himself forming in the desert. Superman tries to introduce himself, but the statue hits him away, calling the hero a liar, when he says that he means them no harm. Superman finds the creature is talking at some ultrasonic frequency, as it tells the hero that he is an aggressive species and has led to the death of their world. Superman doesn't think he has, but the being reveals that he has led the dolphins there, and they are predators who feed on them. Superman watches the dolphins as they eat their fill of the protozoa on the planet's surface, revealing this isn't one creature he's talking to, it's quadrillions, and they all are pulling imagery from his mind, hence why they took his form. The being wants the creatures destroyed, but Superman refuses to kill them, but he will defend the organisms of the planet, since that's what he does. The being, using its telepathic ability, can tell that Clark is thinking of Victor, and Clark tells the being that he left the planet since he wasn't thinking, and the being is in his head, so it should know that violence and rage are not his way. The being knows it's not, taking the form of Lois. Clark asks if they can modify their defense shield to not harm the dolphins, but the being says that it will not dissuade the Contractiato, another species that devastated their world. Superman doesn't know who they are, asking where he can find them since he's trying to get home to planet Earth. The beings agree to free the dolphin calves, so Superman gets back on his journey, but he finds himself ashamed to admit that when the beings mentioned an aggressive species attacking them with their ships, his first thought wasn't about the safety of the beings, but the bad guys. He knows that the invaders must have a star drive and they could get him home, thinking how Lois is going to kill him since he's been gone for over a year. He wonders how he can convey this to the dolphins, wanting to see if they have a shortcut to Earth, but suddenly the dolphins all just take off into hyperspace without him. Marcus tells him that these aren't the same dolphins who led him to the planet, they were the younger calves, and they don't know him. Superman speeds off after them, draining the battery in his solar suit until the PSK tells him that his power reserves are all but exhausted. The PSK constantly asks for a new course heading, asking if Superman wants to go back to Kansas, since it would only take him 18.45 months. In a moment of frustration, Clark crushes the device, leaving him all alone in the vast void of the cosmos.